I'm going to do a quick mobility circuit. I'm only going to do 3 reps of each exercise. You can do 5 to 10 on each side of each exercise. If you find an exercise is useless for you, skip it. If you have an area which is particularly tight or weak, then do it more often. But let's just crack on. So to start, we are going to do pointy toes, which is basically going to tiptoes while sitting down. We're then going to do rolls, so rolling out to in first and then in to out. Try not to roll from the hips or from the knees. Try and keep it entirely in your ankles. So yeah, next is your knees. Bring them in gently to your bum. As you get better, you can put a little bit of pressure on it and start to really try and get over the top of it. I mean, this will do your knees and your hips, or at least start warming up the hips. There we go. You can start sort of easing on top of it. After this, we are going to do internal and external rotation of the hips. Try to keep your bum square. You don't want to be moving your whole body. It's all just from the hips. So just imagine the hip joint as a ball and socket. If you do both sides, as I said, 5 to 10 reps. Next, we're going to do stretching in a straddle position. Now with this, hold it for 10 to 20 seconds and just sort of don't bounce, but feel for where it's tight and just move around so you can kind of feel where the stretch is, where the tightness is. You don't really want to be doing static stretching before a leg workout, but 10 to 20 seconds is probably not going to cause any issues. If it's tight, then you can do longer static stretching afterwards. Next is going to be a movement, which I quite like, which is touching your toes and then rolling backwards onto your back, basically. You don't have to go all the way in one go, and please take it easy and don't injure yourself. You can see my headphones are falling out, but yeah, slowly work up to this. See if you can touch your toes, sit back down in the straddle if you can, and eventually work up over, say, 5-10 reps, so you're bringing it into a squat position. From here, you can then go straight into the knees out squat stretch. And this is the sort of bottom position of every squat. It's kind of stretching the groin. Don't worry if you can't get down as low as I can. Just whatever your depth is absolutely fine. Again, you can hold this and sort of move around in this position, feel for where it's tight. And yeah, next we're going to do what I call ragdoll squats. So just hands underneath the feet and doing squats. Really get your head right down. And yeah, try and get as far as you can. With all of these, really gentle. Don't force the movement. It's more about moving the joints than it is about doing a really big stretch. Next, we've got mountain climbers. Again, this isn't a cardio movement. This is a stretch. So yeah, really bring it up. Keep your hips low and feel around for where the tightness is. From this, once you've done, say, 5 or 10 on each side, you can go into what I call pitching the tent. So you're up the mountain, now pitch the tent. So just straighten the front leg. And again, it's more of a movement than it is a stretch. If you're doing it before a leg session, then 10 or 20 seconds. If you're doing it after a leg session and you're particularly tight, then you can go more to maybe 60 seconds to really stretch the certain movements. So next we have got Frogger. So this is a groin stretch, no naughty comments. Try and sort of get your knees as wide as you can and really sit back into it to get a stretch into your groin on both sides. Have your feet flat on the floor, so effectively you are looking like a frog. But this is again, it's a stretch, so holding it 10-20 seconds and moving around in it if it's before a leg session, or longer if it's afterwards. So next we have got the downward dog into the cobra. So you can do 10 of these. This is a movement, so you're just sort of moving a lot of joints. Again, not really lingering too long in the stretch. just sort of, this is moving the back, moving the hips, moving the shoulders as well. So it's kind of a really nice full body movement and warm up. Once you've done this, you can do a few walk ups where you literally, from a downward dog, just walk your hands back to your feet and then touch your toes and then walk back down. Again, you can do this a couple of times, 5 to 10 reps. Next, we've got cat camel. That's cat, that's camel. And this is just to stretch your spine, really push it high, push it low. There's no load on it, so there's nothing to worry about here. It's just moving it through its full range of motion like humans should, basically. Once you've done this, the next is to mobilize the scapula. So first is just in the shoulders and scapula. You're doing protraction and retraction. This is a very interesting movement. Next, we've got elevation and depression. So this is basically a shrug. Shrug up, shrug back down into your scapula. So these are the movements that you need to really train your back effectively. Next, up onto your knees and just very gently rotate the shoulders round. Do a few rotations backwards, a few rotations forwards. Again, I'm just demonstrating, so 5 or 10 reps is absolutely fine. And then we're going to do the scapular exercises again, but kneeling, because they're so important. So protraction and retraction, and then elevation and depression. So shrugging. But it's all, the arms stay perfectly straight. It's all in the scapula and middle of the back. Next, we're going to quickly mobilize the wrists. So it's the prayer sign, up and then down. I'll just move so you can see it. And when you go up, keep the elbows nice and high to really stretch the wrists. And when you go down, again, slowly and gently push the elbows down. The wrists should move both ways, and this will allow you to do front squats and Olympic lifting, things like that. You can put a little bit more pressure on these by putting them down onto the floor and leaning into them, but be so careful with these, because it's really not worth injuring yourself. So as you sort of walk it round, you can kind of lean into it just to feel a bit of a stretch. And once you've done that, then you can flip your hands over. Now this is quite painful, so please be careful. And then again, just put a little bit of pressure on it just to fully move the wrist joint in all the different directions, which is what we should be able to do as human beings, and what we lose because of modern lifestyle, basically. Now there's one more exercise, which is another scapular exercise, and it's the Ys. So this is a Y, followed by Ts, where your arms come down by your side, and finally Ws. So they're YTWs. And these are really good exercises. You can do 10 to 20 of these. When you bring your elbows down, it's all about bringing the scapula in and back. If you imagine you're doing a squat, and this is the back locked, nice and tight squat position at the bottom there. And that is a full body mobility circuit. As I said, play it by ear as to what specifically you want to do. If it's just lower body, then you might want to do just the lower body one before, and then the upper body one after, or you might want to work it in any way. In an ideal world, you do the whole thing at least once a day, but that's quite a lot of work. So split it in some way that is maintainable.